Andrew, what was it that made him that choice to put him at the top of the 2026 class?
Well, I'm going to be honest. We kind of came into it when we sat down. It was Chris Henry, Faison Brandon. Which direction do we want to go? And, Cooper continued to bring up that arm. And, how did we rank Faison Brandon without him ever starting a varsity game in the top 100? Really, it was the workout he put together after his freshman season heading into that sophomore year. Then we see the live bullets coming. I touched on it. He's a dual threat talent, and he'll run. He can do the RPOs, and he can beat you with his legs, but he wants to stay on schedule. He is rhythmic as a passer. He's super accurate out towards the numbers, gets the ball out fast, and then in the face of pressure, he is super poised. From a statistical standpoint, he's as clean as they come. His completion percentage, yards per attempt, interception rate, all top marks here in the 2026 class. I also mentioned he's on the younger side, and he's our first five-star quarterback out of the Tar Heel State since Drake May. Drake May is going to get selected here probably tomorrow night in the NFL draft. Different players, but they do have one thing in common, and that's the basketball background. Both Drake May, Faison Brandon, double-digit scorers on the hardwood as sophomores. So important, that multi-sport at the quarterback position, just how they react, get away from pressure. You see it this past NFL wildcard weekend, 8 of the 12 starting quarterbacks all played basketball in high school, so we love that about Faison Brandon. And we anticipate him to only continue to take steps forward. Love the developmental long-term upside with him.
I also read in a great piece from our colleague Anna Adams that this is the first time that a #1 player in the class has come from Greensboro, so I know that they are very proud of him there. It'll be interesting to see his development. Sounds like haven't seen a whole lot in terms of a starter, but enough to put him as the #1 prospect in the class. Coop, looking at this group as a whole, what are some positions of strength?
Yeah, I think the edge group, you can start there. We have 5 guys inside the top 32, but outside of the top 32, we got a couple guys that we're pretty excited about. And let's start with Carter Meadows out of Gonzaga there in the DMV area. And this is a guy long developmental upside. We keep saying that term, but there is a lot of clay there. I think the biggest thing is when you're doing a rankings or a rankings refresh coming out at this point, there's a lot of information and a lot of puzzle pieces you're still putting together. So Carter Meadows is one of those guys that certainly flashes on tape. We know we like him a lot. We're just waiting for the information to really kind of catch up in the evaluation process, and that in addition to getting some eyes on him from the live evaluation side as well. So you think about guys like Carter Meadows, Jarius Rogers, another guy, a verified track and field athlete, very explosive lower body, but we want to see some more on tape. Zach Groves as well, the brother of Elijah Groves, a former top 247 signee with NC State. A lot to like about him out of the state of Tennessee. And then all the way to the PNW, Derek Coleman-Brusa, a guy that Greg Biggins, Brandon Huffman, Blair Angulo all saw this weekend perform really well. So we're in the information gathering stage, but there are a lot of guys when you go down the board, really from 100 to kind of 150 that are sitting in that kind of 3rd or 4th round range right now. But as far as we see it on tape, they all have that potential to make a strong move up the board. It's just going to have to take some time as we play the catch-up game with information, which will happen over the next 2 years.
Coop, I love this edge rusher group. I think this is the year. If you need a pass rusher, there's plenty of them. And the other group I'm super excited about, running backs. I know Emily's probably like, whoa, running backs, you guys always talk about not ranking running backs high. But we got a few in there. Right now, it's 8 inside the top 100, 15 inside the top 247, and we have a running back inside the top 32. That's Davion Gross out of the state of Texas. This is a kid that ran for over 900 yards and had 800 yards receiving. He can beat you in a variety of different ways. He is explosive, verified speed. I love his jump cuts, and I think when you're projecting long-term towards the NFL draft, everyone's going to watch tomorrow night. These running backs, you have to make people miss in tight quarters. You also have to be able to catch the ball. Davion Gross can do just that. And credit to Gabe Brooks for putting him on our radar. He has an excellent story up on 247sports.com just talking about this running back class, what it could be, and how special it is in Texas. Tadarian Bell, KJ Edwards from Gabe's alma mater, Carthage. He's also a guy we really like. So this group is special. We're super high on the running backs. It's a little bit rare. Normally we're more conservative, but all these guys have some juice, and all of them can find the end zone.
I love to hear it. See, I always ask you why there are no 5-star running backs, and then you aptly respond with how many running backs you see go in the first round of the NFL draft. Not that many. We will see a lot of quarterbacks go in the first round of the NFL draft, so I want to talk about the signal callers in this group. Ivins, I'll start with you. I mean, who are some names that we should know about?
Yeah, I mean, 4 inside of our initial 32. I think that's kind of the lead group right there. Obviously, Faison, Brandon, Ryder Lyons, Jared Curtis, and then you got Dia Bell, who Cooper mentioned. Bell isn't the only one out of the Sunshine State in this top 247. Really, really strong cycle in Central Florida. You have Brady Hart, Noah Grubbs, Will Griffin, a few other guys out there. Brady Hart, kind of hearing from Notre Dame, Ohio State, Florida, all after him. It's easy to see why. Led his team to a 2S state title this past season. He's got the prototypical frame. I call him a modern pocket passer, baseball background. Dad played in the minor leagues. You know, in sync when it comes to his arm and his legs, really like what he's able to do. And he threw over 400 passes this past season. Now, he had more games, but his offense, you got to throw the football around the yard. Will Griffin, to me, out of Tampa Jesuit, he's kind of built like Tim Tebow. He's a muscled up individual. You know, you would think, okay, dual threat talent, but he wants to stay on schedule and you know, take what the defense is going to give to him. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Sean Clifford, who was at Penn State, now with the Green Bay Packers. You know, he's a competitive individual. He's durable. He's going to take some hits. He's actually started more games than anyone else in the class of 2026. And that's because he played on varsity as an 8th grader. Finally, Noah Grubbs. This kid had 2 500-yard games this past season. Very loose arm, not afraid to take his chances. So I think in Florida, it's a great year. Dia Bell leads it off. Then you have Brady Hart, Noah Grubbs, Will Griffin. And there's some other guys out there that we're closely tracking, like Darion Coleman from Orlando Jones.
Sure, we got some West Coast guys, too. How about Brady Smeagol out of Newberry Park, 6'4", 185 pounds, big body, a little different mechanically. I don't know if I'm going to regret saying this. It kind of reminds me, play style-wise, mechanically, let me phrase it that way, a little bit of Phillip Rivers. You know, the release is kind of wonky a little bit, but he gets it there from point A to point B. You talk about a guy for 2026 has already played a lot of football games, has accounted for over 7,000 yards passing as well. So he's an interesting guy on the West Coast, but the guy that I really like, Jaden O'Neal, right there in California as well, kind of nipping at his heels. 6'2 plus, 210 pounds, stout type of frame, pretty similar to kind of Ryder Lyons, who we talked about earlier in the top 10 of the quarterback rankings. But listen, this kid, Jaden O'Neal, he can pump it. And I like everything about this kid, what he can do. 5-6, right, in terms of the win-loss record, over 60% completion rate. There are some things that he has to clean up, but the physical toolkit, there's a lot to work with. He's one of those names that's going to be a name to watch. And then South Carolina commit Landon Duckworth, bringing it back to the Southeast. I think they got something here. This kid's 6'3", 190 pounds. He's a winner. When you see him in a combine setting, it leaves a little bit to be desired. You turn on the tape, there is a lot to like. I can see why Shane Beamer, his staff, wanted to get Duckworth in the boat early, and this is a guy pretty similar to Lenora Sellers, a guy that they had committed for a while and is a guy that they're going to be counting on this year. I see the vision with Landon Duckworth, another guy that I feel if you're a Gamecock fan, you should be pretty excited about.